What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Wrestlemania 9. We are on the 9th installment of our 39 Wrestlemanias in 39 days. I don't know if this is technically 1/4 of the way through, or if technically tomorrow is 1/4 of the way through, since it's not quite even, but we are getting very close to that mark. So I do hope you guys have been enjoying these so far. Today we're going to be talking about, arguably, in my opinion, and again, this is just my opinion, I know a lot of people don't like 2. I know a lot of people don't like 7. This might be my least favorite WrestleMania, and you will soon see why. I don't know if this would be the worst rated WrestleMania, but this is probably my personal least favorite. Just because I hated the spectacle. I thought it was cheesy. Maybe if I was watching wrestling at the time. This is the last pre-Nomad WrestleMania. And by that I mean this happened on April 4th of 1993. I was born June 8th. So you guys can put that on your calendar and send me a birthday present this year if you want to. But this is the last Nomad before the last WrestleMania before I was born. So obviously I was not watching wrestling at the time. So maybe if I was, I would be much more favorable for the spectacle of this match. This was done at the Caesars Coliseum in Las Vegas. So it was very Roman themed, very Coliseum themed. And it looked good. It looked nice. The matches were kind of orchestrated like it was a Coliseum type deal. But that didn't make them very good. And we're going to talk about that here. So, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 match card, technically. 8 listed matches, but there is a 9th match that, unfortunately, I'm not blocking the image of. You can kind of see the spoiler right there of what that 9th match is. We'll get there. Starting off, first of all, Jim Ross and Randy Savage on commentary with Bobby Heenan. Fucking beautiful. I loved the fact that Macho Man got to kind of take a second to be on the other side of the table and commentate for this. He was amazing on commentary. Him and Jim Ross were perfect. Bobby Heenan, I fucking hate his voice. I hate Bobby Heenan so much. But as a commentator, just over the top, ridiculous. I hated him. But Jim Ross and Randy Savage were fucking amazing, and they actually made the matches feel a lot more important than they actually were. So great job on the two of them for their work here at WrestleMania 9. But we're not here to rate commentary. We're here to rate matches, unfortunately. We're going to start off with Tatanka with Sensational Sherry versus Shawn Michaels with Luna Vachon for the Intercontinental title, and Tatanka won by countout. So, I actually don't hate this match. Rob gave it a C+, but then gave it a low. So I think what he means to say is this is barely a C+, so maybe he meant to give us a 5 out of 10 instead of a 6 out of 10. Again, I had already told Rob at this point that we were changing to a point scale from 0 to 10. So maybe that's kind of what he was trying to say, was, hey, this is a low C+. I'm going to consider that a 5 because I'm not going to give a C+ a 4. But I thought this match was a fantastic match, ruined by a horrible fucking ending. You guys know how I hate count-out endings in a WrestleMania. Disqualification endings? That's fine if this isn't the last time you two are going to fight. I fucking hate count-out endings. A common trend, honestly, with these first 8 WrestleManias, but a really worsened trend here in this particular WrestleMania, and we're going to get to more of that later on. I really want to give this match an 8 out of 10 for what it was. It was a fantastic fight between the two of them. Luna Vachon and Sensational Sherry were great in this match. They got into it a little bit too. I always thought if the women's division was taken more seriously back then, like it was in the mid to late 2000s and obviously into the modern times, I feel like Luna Vachon and Sherry would have been fucking masterpieces in the women's locker room. Unfortunately, women's wrestling isn't taken seriously at this point, and really not for 20 more years, to be perfectly honest with you. And unfortunately, they were kind of treated like sideshows in this regard, and unfortunately that's how they played their part here. Sensational Sherry had betrayed Shawn Michaels, and that's why he's with Luna Vachon, or maybe Shawn betrayed her. I can't remember exactly how that worked out, but honestly the match was great until the countout finished. I thought it kind of ruined the match, so I gave it a 7 out of 10 because the match was great up until that point. Rob gave it a C+ low. I'm going to call it a 5. That's going to average out to a 12, which is going to average out to a 6, which is what technically Rob would have given it had he not put low on there. So, honestly, 6 out of 10 for the two of you. Good job. You're probably one of the very lone bright marks on this entire event, and we're going to get to that more often. Next up, we have the Steiner brothers. Rick and Scott Steiner versus the Head Shrinkers, which is Fatu, also known as Rikishi, and Samu. Fatu and Samu. My phone has autocorrected it to Samuel, with Afa, High Chief Afa, with the two of them. This is a fantastic match. And honestly, it's the only good match on this card. Rob gave it a high B. I gave it a 9 out of 10. So, this is the only match worth talking about. Fuck it. Let's go to Rob with our match review. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to our match review here for WrestleMania 9. I am here with Rob once again. He is saluting his tribal chief because two members of the bloodline are in this match. Mm-hmm. The Head Shrinkers versus the Steiner.
Look at the OG Oos.
The OG Oos. Well, technically the OG Oos was their manager, Afa. But
yeah.
This is, of course, Rick and Scott Steiner versus Fatu and Samu. Fatu, of course, the actual last name of Rikishi and the Usos, and Solo. Fatu is actually Rikishi, very young Rikishi. Mm-hmm. You can definitely see the Uso resemblance here in young Rikishi now that I see him in this young form before he cuts his hair all off. Or braids it, I think.
Braids it.
Yeah, he braids it.
But gains the weight. And then
gains all the weight.
Gets like 10 shades darker.
Yeah, true. And also develops the fattest ass in the WWF.
Yeah.
This match is the only good match on the card, as you guys will see as this review continues. That's why we're going ahead and review this one. We don't usually review tag matches, and we also don't usually review matches that aren't like the headliner of the match, but this is the best match of the night, and it also shows some extremely good technical wrestling. It also is the only Steiner match on this entire review so far, because they go off to TNA and WCW. You cannot convince me that you cannot convince me that this is the same man that does the Steiner math promo in TNA.
It's the greatest promo of all time. It's the greatest and worst promo of all time.
It's absolute trash, but it's beautiful trash, and I love it. And it's one of my favorites. And when someone tells me, why do you love wrestling, I send them the Steiner math promo. You cannot tell me it's the same guy. He doesn't look remotely the same.
Was Hulk Hogan in TNA when he did the...
No, Hulk Hogan
got
was
the
WCW.
wrong guy in the wrong place at the right time with the wrong dude. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't think so. I don't remember him ever going to TNA.
What? Hulk Hogan and Dixie Carter, bro?
Did Hulk Hogan go to TNA? He went to WCW. That's when he became Hollywood.
Hulk Hogan went to TNA, and then TNA was like okay for a little bit with him, and then all of a sudden he went there, and he and Dixie Carter fucking ran TNA into the ground.
Oh.
Yes!
I don't remember that. Anyway, we're here to talk about these two. I'm so sick and tired of talking about Hulk Hogan, especially in this fucking event. Obviously, this match is amazing. They have great chemistry. This is obviously before Rikishi gained all the weight so that he could still actually move and kick like old Solo Sikoa can do in modern wrestling. But I really wanted to talk about this because, the tag team division really didn't get a lot of love in these early WWE eras. There weren't really good tag teams, and when they did, they were like one-shots and you never heard of them again. And unfortunately, the same shit happened to these two. What do you think was it with the old tag division in these older 80s and early 90s WrestleManias and just wrestling in general, where the tag division just couldn't catch on? Was it a chemistry issue? Was it a fans not wanting it issue? Was it just no good tag teams?
I don't think it was the fans not wanting it. I don't think it was that they didn't catch on, because you got to remember there was the Rockers.
True.
Right? Steiner Brothers, dope.
You had but it was just two. You had Demolition. That was it. You had Demolition. You had the Hart Foundation. You had the Rockers. So I guess they caught on, but it's just like you didn't see a lot of new teams forming, and when you did, it was like
it was more of Vinnie Mac being Vinnie Mac, because he always hated the smaller guys, regardless if they were more athletic, more entertaining. Because I mean, the Rockers never really had a bad match.
No, but they never got really pushed. Until they broke up.
I was going to say they got pushed after they broke up.
But even then, Jannetty just disappeared after that rivalry. You never saw him again. They became the Shawn Michaels show after that.
I think it's because Jannetty was already looking to move out of wrestling. There was something in the documentary that I watched a couple weeks ago.
But you saw the same thing with the Hart Foundation. They broke him up. Bret Hart went on his own. I don't know. Anyway, this match was phenomenal. Absolutely great chemistry, great back and forth, great moves. The Steiner brothers, I mean, that freaking turnbuckle move I saw a picture of it when we were looking for a picture for here, but you couldn't really see it very well. It was kind of fuzzy. Just excellent tag team chemistry between these two. Arguably the best tag team chemistry I've seen of any match so far. And I actually gave me promise thinking we were going to get a true tag. Because really the tag team so far, even with the Hart Foundation and the Rockers, was just a single... just these two fighting until they tag in. Then these two fight until they tag in. This was true tag team wrestling with true tag team moves.
I felt like the Rockers and the Hart Foundation walked so that Steiner brothers could run. Mm-hmm. Literally. Oh, yeah, it even shows with Braun Breaker, dude. That man...
That man's going to be gold. He's going to be goated. With Rikishi here, what do you think... What is your favorite... Like, not so much what's your favorite. What do you think was holding Rikishi back from reaching his full potential? Because you see it with, like, all of his cousins. The Rock, Roman, the Usos, even Solo, I think, could do it. I feel like something always held Rikishi back.
I'm going to say it is the quote-unquote bloodline moveset. A lot of...
Which is big now, but wasn't big then.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. A lot of people within the bloodline family did very similar moves. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, thinking of Rikishi now compared to him here and then the people before him, I mean, Rikishi did stuff. He took big bumps and all that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like he had to stand out on his own to really get the push and recognition that he deserved outside of his family. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Right. With these two right here, were you shocked that we didn't get to see more Steiners in the WWE?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, because I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think Scott Steiner comes back. I think at some point, doesn't he?
At this time, I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to check on that. I can't remember if he does or not. But yeah, this match.
I think my dad, because I remember watching them in WCW, and it's showing our age here, and I remember saying, wow, that Steiner guy would be good in WWE. And then my dad was like, well, technically he already was. And then he like came back and then he went to WCW again or something. And then he came back as Big Papa Pump or something along those lines. I don't know. Could just be like making up that scenario in my head. But I vividly remember talking to my dad about wrestling all the time. And I remember talking about Scott Steiner all the time.
Yeah, Rick Steiner, don't really know too much about him outside of this match, but Scott Steiner definitely stands out. Rick Steiner, the biggest achievement he's done that I know of is giving birth to Braun Breaker. Now that's a hell of a fucking achievement right there. I mean,
he also has the best and worst promo.
That's Scott Steiner.
Oh, yeah, you're right. My fault.
Anyway, this match was a banger, which stood out amongst a sea of trash. Great technical wrestling between the two teams. Great chemistry between the two teams. Nothing necessarily remarkable outside of a few great tag spots. I do know I have a couple of notes here on the match itself.
I gave this a high B.
It's WrestleMania 9.
Side note. Doink the Clown. I don't think his finisher gets as much recognition as it deserves.
Sir, I intentionally didn't talk about Doink the Clown on this because I didn't want to dive into that man's psyche any more than I had to. As far as my notes on here, the almost botched ending, I can forgive that. The leap counter power slam, just absolutely insane.
Beautiful.
Ending looked great in theory. Again, almost botched, but other than that, amazing match. Great back and forth counters, momentum swings. The heat spot on Scott Steiner I thought went on for a little bit too long. Mm-hmm. Not enough to damage this match. I gave this match 9 out of 10. I thought it was a perfect back and forth. I thought it was a great chemistry match. I thought it was great move sets, which you didn't see much on this card. You didn't see much of wrestling at all at the time. Absolutely excellent match between the two of them. I love breaking down anything I can about Scott Steiner, and I really do feel like this should have left a much bigger impact on wrestling as a whole, much more than it did, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's all I've got, unfortunately, with this match, because it really wasn't... It was a spectacular... It was a golden, shiny, golden nugget on a mountain of turds with WrestleMania 9.
You're not wrong. I had a bunch of C minuses. I know that much.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's all the time we have for this match review. Good luck to other me who has to review the rest of this trash. Back to me. All right, so welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for watching that match review between me and Rob. Again, last couple match reviews obviously have had a little bit of a different feel to them, but honestly, this one, there really isn't much to go off of here. Rob gave it a B+, which is going to be an 8. I gave it a 9. That's going to average out to an 8.5, so we're going to keep it at that 9 rating, give it an A. Don't worry, just because we have a good and great match on this card does not mean this is a good card. If you haven't seen Rob's ratings, mine are probably even worse than his. So, let's continue. Next up, we have, Jesus fucking Christ, Doink the Clown versus Crush. Crush never moved me, personally. Now, this is the good Doink. Matt Bourne, I think it was Matt Bourne, which was the only good Doink. After he gave up the mantle and Vince replaced him with other wrestlers to play Doink the Clown, he really went to shit. But this was the good Doink. But this was not a good match. Crush, just the sheer lack of chemistry between the two was beyond apparent. Doink really wasn't able to do much. Crush tried to take over for part of the match, but just couldn't seem to do it convincingly. Horrible selling, poor offense. Weird choice by Doink. Just didn't seem to hit the right moves on Crush to make them look legit. It wasn't a very good back and forth. It wasn't a very good heat spot. I felt like the match carried on for a little bit too long anyway. I will say this. Loved seeing the double Doink finish. The other Doink coming out from the ring, and you have two Doinks, and they do the little mirror spot, and then Crush can't figure it out. The double Doink ending was phenomenal. With taking the fake arm and beating him upside the head with it, and behind the ref's back, and that was really creative, really fun. Something you can only do with a character like Doink the Clown. So for that, I gave this match a 3 out of 10. I didn't give it a straight F like I wanted to. I gave it a 3 out of 10 because of the finish. Rob gave it a C. It's going to be a 5. It's going to average out to a 4. So a low C. I'll take that. I'll take that. What I think it deserves is a 4 below. That's what it got. We're good for there. We'll move on. Next up, we have one of my favorite wrestlers from the minimal WCW that I watched. Razor Ramon or Scott Hall. Love me some Razor Ramon. Scott Hall, definitely a wrestler that I wish I got to watch more of growing up. Wish probably if I was to say like one wrestler that I wish I that was wrestling more when I started watching it, would have been Scott Hall or Razor Ramon. So I've really enjoyed seeing his matches during this review series. But we have Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund. Unfortunately, this is a super short match. Really felt like a filler match. Two very talented wrestlers. Bob Backlund is renowned for being such a great worker for his entire career. And unfortunately, it resulted in something rather unremarkable. I gave it a 4 out of 10, low C. It just exists. Great bumps, great action for what it was, but it was super short. Really too short to really amount to anything. Looks like Rob agreed, actually gave it a D-. He actually gave it a 2. So he gave it worse than what I did. That's going to average up to a 6. That's going to end up putting it at a 3, which is unfortunate, but I can't really say it doesn't deserve that. It's going to be a high D in terms of the final rating, and yeah, I think if they had given these two more time, then I think they could have put something together. I honestly think they should have taken some time away from a match that's coming up in a couple of matches here that went on way too fucking long, and you probably could have gotten a good match out of these two. But unfortunately, they gave it to the wrong team. That's what happens. Next up, we have Money Inc., which is IRS and Ted DiBiase versus the Mega Maniacs, Brutus Beefcake and Hulk Hogan. That's right, we finally have a WrestleMania where Hulk Hogan isn't in the main event. I can't wait. There's no way they fucked this up. There's no possible way that they fucked this up in any capacity. He's going to be gone halfway through the event, and I won't have to see Hulk Hogan again. Unfortunately, I had to see him here. And you could tell he's not in his prime anymore. He just didn't seem to have it. Maybe it was the fact he's teamed up with Brutus Beefcake, who never had it. They finally got these two best friends to team up, and they went up against Ted DiBiase and IRS. Money Inc. won by disqualification. So here's the thing. So let me kind of describe this match to you guys, and you'll understand my rating when it's all said and done. And I honestly think that Rob might have given it the same score. Actually, yes, Rob did give it the same score. I gave this match a 4 out of 10, but let me explain why. So the match actually wasn't terrible for the most part. So I'll give Hogan a little bit of credit, mostly because of Ted DiBiase and IRS. But initially, they try to take their titles and leave. Okay, they try to get counted out, and they did get counted out. But the referee, on the fly, decided to change the rules and say that if they did not return to the ring by the count of 10, they would lose their titles. Now, that is not... No one came out there to make that official. No, Vince McMahon, or I think, I want to say Gorilla Monsoon was the commissioner at the time, I think. He didn't come out here and make this official. The referee just decided it on his own. So that's cardinal sin number 1. Cardinal sin number 2 is the fact that you then got taken advantage of like 5 different times while they choked Hogan's lights out for 4 minutes. It was a very inconsistent ref. Which again, it's scripted, so it's not like the referee was just bad because he was bad. Like, he was scripted to be bad. But it was very bad booking. Very bad booking decisions in terms of you let this ref change the rules, then be dumb, be taken advantage of. And then after getting knocked out, Jimmy Hart takes Jimmy Hart is with Beefcake and Hogan. He takes the referee jacket, he pins him. Of course, he's not the ref, it doesn't count. But then the referee disqualifies them because Jimmy Hart took the jacket. And you end up giving the titles to IRS anyway. It was dumb. And it's just a stupid match. Could have been a decent match. But bad beginning, lackadaisical middle, bad finish, decent ending up to the finish. 4 out of 10. That's what I gave it. Rob seemed to agree. 4 out of 10. That's where we're giving it. Put you guys there, and hopefully I never have to see Hogan again. We'll just pretend. We won't ever see Hogan again, right? No more. No more. Next up, we have Lex Luger versus Mr. Perfect. Now, this was a match that Honestly, I didn't know what to expect with Lex Luger. Lex Luger is an odd case. From what my research shows, Lex Luger could put on an all-time classic banger if he wanted to. He was kind of like, and again, we're talking about the wrestler, not the person here, but he was almost like Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar could put on an all-time banger if he wanted to. If he didn't want to, he put on a fucking stinker. And apparently Lex Luger was the same way. On paper, this match was fantastic. I love Mr. Perfect, and Luger seemed like he actually wanted to play for about 50% of this match. The issue in this match came in the fact that Mr. Perfect had forgotten the entire fucking script outside of the ending. They ad-libbed this entire match from start to the finish. That's why there was so many slow holds, because one would tell the referee something, the referee would tell the other ones, they would walk. A lot of holds while they're whispering and they're basically calling the match as it is. And for that fact, this match is almost even more impressive by the fact that they basically went off book for 90% of it. A disappointing match because what it could have been had they actually followed the script and not had these slow in moments. I gave this match a 5 out of 10 because of that. Rob gave it a 5 out of 10 too. I have no idea if Rob knew that this match was totally off script or not, but I gave it a 5 out of 10, and so, ironically, that's where it's going to go. Still would love to see what would have happened had that match gone as it was expected to. Next up, we have the, at this point, probably the most infamous Undertaker match of his entire career, not just the streak. And that is Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez. Giant Gonzalez is 7'7", towers over the almost 7-foot Undertaker. But he can't move, can't sell, he has no offense, he can't do shit around the ring. Undertaker does everything he can to make this match not fucking trash, and it just doesn't work. He wins by disqualification. He gets put on the stretcher. Now, the ending, the post-match stuff, phenomenal. That was vintage Undertaker. Coming back from the dead, coming back in, beating his ass, choke slamming him, what have you. The post-match was decent. Just to make The Undertaker seem more like a supernatural force, but the match was fucking terrible. I give Taker a 3. I give Giant Gonzalez a fucking 0. I give this match a 1 out of spite, because I can't see myself giving an Undertaker match a flat 0, even though this match deserved it. Rob gave it a D-, which is a 2, so unfortunately, it's going to go up to a 2. I give it a 0 just so I can slot it back in the 1 spot, but I will play fair here. I gave it a 1, Rob gave it a 2, 1.5 is going to get bumped up to a 2, that's where it's going to sit. I don't want to spend any more time on this match than I have to. You guys have probably all seen it or heard of it by now. It's not good, it's bad, it's infamous to a degree. Moving on. And finally, the main event, the last match. I've only got one picture down there. You see it? I've only got one left. We have Yokozuna versus Bret Hart. Now, for a big man, at this time, not later on, but at this time, Yokozuna could fucking move. He can move for a large man. I actually enjoyed this match. Honestly, really enjoyed this match. Bret Hart does Bret things. Absolutely phenomenal. Makes this match a great back and forth. A shorter match than I was expecting it to be. A heel finish with the salt in the eyes from Mr. Fuji, which, again, it makes sense. It works for the way these two were billed, and it works to make Yokozuna seem like a plausible threat, and it also gives Bret Hart sort of a mountain to climb for the future. I honestly gave this match a 7 out of 10. Rob gave it a low C, so I'm going to say Rob gave it a 4. 11 divided by 2 is going to end up being a 5.5, so this is going to get moved up to a 6. Kind of right smack dab in the middle of what me and Rob wanted to give it. And then WrestleMania 9 ends. There's nothing left. Right? Unfortunately not. Yokozuna wins the belt. Hulk Hogan comes down there to try to give Bret Hart to sort of save Bret Hart from being basically squished by Yokozuna. Mr. Fuji challenges Hulk Hogan to a match, and Hulk Hogan wins in 22 seconds. No. Get it the fuck out of here. It ruined it. Again, this WrestleMania was not going to win any awards. Even with the 9 out of 10 on the card, this WrestleMania was not going to win any awards. It was doomed to be a below average WrestleMania, but then you decided to throw that shit on the end because you just have to give Hulk Hogan his moment. You can't have a WrestleMania without giving Hulk Hogan a moment. I'm sick of him at this point. I'm absolutely sick of Hulk Hogan, and yeah, that's all I can say on that. I'm glad this is the last time I have to deal with him for a while. I think anyway. I don't think he's on the card for 10. I can't remember at this point, but yeah, just an absolute horrible finish overall, and ruined what was a at least semi decent main event or WrestleMania event. But again, we have to give it an average. So let me grab my Trendy Andy calculator here and see what we're at. So actually, that 0 doesn't kill it. The 6s and the 4s are going to offset. The 2 is going to hurt it. The 0 is going to bring it down. It's going to make it so that 9 doesn't happen. And it looks like WrestleMania 9 is going to sit with a 4.33 average. I don't think that is the worst. So I'm shocked that this wasn't the worst one. I'll have to double check and see exactly what is the worst one. If you guys don't mind, I can figure that out here. That was a 4.33. Fortunately, I did not put on here what I gave WrestleMania 1 and 2. So maybe Mania 2 ended up coming in below it. I'm not exactly sure. I have to double check that. But yeah, 4.33. Not going to be the worst, but definitely could have been better. So yeah, there we have it. That is WrestleMania 9 in a nutshell, guys. Y'all have a fantastic evening. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll be back with the first decade of WrestleMania with WrestleMania 10 tomorrow. Y'all have a good night, and I'll see you then.